Hi, everybody. I wanted to share a conversation with you that I had with a Jehovah's Witness. This is a Jehovah's Witness that I used to know as a kid. She sent me a Watchtower and a personal letter, and the Watchtower was entitled, "What is God's Kingdom?" Her letter states that they have been reaching out, and this was as of November. I finally had the chance to reach out to her to explain to people what God's kingdom is. Little did she know who was going to be on the receiving end of her mailer. The business that she sent the mailer to is a business that I owned many years ago. She must have gotten outdated information, and the information never told her who the president of that company was, which was me. Had she known who I was, she never would have sent it. So I used the opportunity to call her because my grandparents used to own the house that she lives in. My grandmother was disfellowshipped. My grandfather had no use for the Jehovah's Witnesses at all and never was a Jehovah's Witness. But they did buy their house from a disfellowshipped person. It was interesting that they bought the house from disfellowshipped people, but also more interesting that they had no idea who they were sending that mailer to. And it gave me the perfect opportunity to reach out to them. Inside of this conversation, I used the opportunity to talk to her about politics and why it is that Jehovah's Witnesses refuse to stand against the liberal side. They say that they only remain neutral, they don't take sides, and they say on their website that the reason that they don't take sides is because they want to be able to talk to people of all political persuasions. But the truth is, they already can do that. So they haven't established an ideal biblical reason why not to stand against the evil of the Democratic side. They choose instead to remain neutral, not speak against the Democratic side, which holds to the right to kill babies, homosexuality, transgenderism, all different things that are listed in the Bible as abominations. So I said, let me try and see how far I can get with this. But the conversation took a different turn. I ended up bringing up something called the Book of Life. And if you're familiar with the Book of Life, you'll find it in Revelation chapter 22, verse 19, which says that anyone that takes away from the words of this book, meaning the book of Revelation, will lose their part in heavenly Jerusalem and in the Book of Life. It's very clear what the Book of Life is, which is different than the Book of the Living spoken of in the Old Testament. The Book of Life contains the names of all those chosen from the foundation of the world, and those would be the ones who end up being followers of Christ, disciples, and they would be the ones who would be saved. The Book of Life is a very, very serious and very extensive topic of study. It's profound, to say the least. But the Jehovah's Witnesses don't teach about the Book of Life because it goes against their doctrine. So the Watchtower says that the Book of Life is the same thing as the Book of the Living. Clearly it is not. And if you did a research on this topic, you would see for yourself that they are definitely different books spoken of in the Bible. But watch what happens when I bring up the Book of Life to this Jehovah's Witness. I think you'll be very surprised. Enjoy.
Hello?
Hi, is this,
No.
oh, I'm sorry. I'm looking for,
No, you got the wrong number, but what is it about? Maybe it's somebody I can help you with?
well, I received a letter from and I Googled the phone number, and this came up.
Oh, okay.
Are you a family? They're Jehovah's Witnesses.
Yeah, yes.
Oh, okay.
And let me take the phone over to her.
Okay.
We live in the same house,
Oh,
so we can
okay.
phone over to her.
Okay.
Hold on.
Sounds good.
Oh. Hello?
Hello, is it?
Yes, it is.
Well, hello. How are you this evening? My name is, and I received a letter from you with a Watchtower in it. So I thought I'd look you up, and I don't know if you know who I am, but my grandparents used to own your house.
Oh, yes.
Yes. I recognize the name because, as you know, my family used to be JWs when we were growing up. Well, when I was growing up, I was never baptized. I grew up as a kid into it, and then my family left. But I stopped by a garage sale at your house probably about, I don't know, maybe 10 years ago.
Okay.
And I have had very fond memories of going to your house and well, when my grandparents owned it,
Yeah.
So I wanted to say,
did you used to go to the Kingdom Hall?
yeah, when I was little, so I was the youngest.
Yes.
Yeah.
I remember you.
And it's hard for me to remember a lot of the people that were there because obviously, I think our family left when I think I was 14. And so I never had to go through the disassociation or anything like that. And obviously my parents weren't disfellowship, but they ended up doing the disassociation thing. So, times moved on, and I said, boy, that name sounds familiar. And then I looked at the return address, and I saw that it was on. That I'll be darned. I wonder if that's. So, how are you doing?
Oh, we're doing really well. Yeah. So we haven't been going from door to door since like April, I think, or March,
okay,
because of COVID.
Yeah.
So we've been calling people on the phone to try to reach them and talk with them, and those that we can't reach, we write letters to. So that's why I wrote the letter.
That
because
was nice.
Well,
what's interesting is the business. I used to own that business, but I don't own it anymore. So it was sort of a fluke, I guess you could say. I don't know. I don't know where.
Which business was it that I wrote to?
It was.
Okay, yes, I remember that.
Yeah.
So you got the Kingdom Watchtower. You got a special one.
Let me see which one I got. I think it was November that you wrote it. Yeah, it was November.
Yeah.
Number 2. Is that number 2 on the top? Number 2, 2020? Yeah. Or is that November 2nd, 2020?
No, it's number 2. They do things differently now. We don't have the actual dates, like the months of the watchtowers and awakes.
Really?
We have numbers. We have them numbered. That way they can be used, throughout the year.
Right.
And then they don't look like, this is outdated. This is way back in, November or January, something like that.
Do they have numbers that they go by, like which publications? Say somebody's looking for a specific publication or something, or?
Well, on our website, you can go on jw.org and if you click on publications and then Watchtower, it has all of so we have 2 separate Watchtowers now. We have a study edition for those who come to the Kingdom Hall and the question and answer format that you're used to. But then we have the public Watchtower in Awake that are for the public and they're for us too to read. But we did a special worldwide campaign in November of sending all businesses and political people, in different political powers, even, the president, different heads of state all over the world got that copy of the Watchtower. That was not given to just anybody, like we would call and send a Watchtower to somebody we couldn't reach.
Yeah. I think that's.
Yeah.
I am shocked to hear that you were sending it to politicians, and good for you, because I have been studying theology for many years. I am Reformed. How do you break down Reformed? It's basically Presbyterian, but I don't attend church. I am self-taught in theology for many years, and we are in a critical state right now. Because what's going on with the new president, you can say whatever you want about Trump, and I know JWs don't get, and I love JWs. I used to go to Stewart's all the time and see them and yak their ear off, and and we had a great time talking. And one of the ladies I met there, I'll just give you a briefing of this. I said, Do you know if I know that JWs don't get involved in politics, but do you know what you would be called if you did? And she said, I don't really know. We don't really get involved with politics. And I said, no. But here's the reason why I ask you, because you should be prepared to answer this at the door or on the streets or what have you. Jehovah's Witnesses are clearly very, very biblically based. We can differ in doctrine, we can differ in our beliefs or what have you in terms of soteriology, salvation, that sort of thing, but they are very, very proud, as you are, I'm sure, of being biblically based. So I said to her, if someone were to come up to you and say, well, but what did Jehovah's Witnesses believe in terms of their stance on politics other than leading them to the Bible? The Jehovah's Witnesses would largely be considered conservative, not liberal. And she said, well, we don't pick sides. And here was my issue with that, from one Christian to another. I said, well, if you don't take sides, then that means you're not going to side against liberalism. And liberalism in itself is pro-LGBT, pro-abortion, pro-teaching the kids in school about sexuality in terms of, lesbian and gays, pro-embracing Islam, all of the things that the Bible detests. And I said, would you, figuratively speaking, if somebody came up to you at the door or if you went up to them and you were talking to them about this, would you object to the liberal ideologies? And she said that you don't take a side. So I wonder what your thoughts are on that, because if you don't take a side, technically that's saying, well, we're neutral, and the definition of neutral is we don't want to say this to this or this to that. And I looked on jw.org to see what the updated, if there was something that I've missed, as far as I knew, they'd always said, well, we're going to ride down the center, not going to take anybody's side. But that's saying we're not going to side against liberals. And they said on the website that it seemed to be that they were leaning to the fact that it was because they want to be able to talk to people of all different types of political backgrounds. But in fact, you can do that anyway. So what's your thoughts on that? If you were to go up to someone's door and they were to say, well, so then if you don't object to it, then do you support it? You would have to say, we don't judge, which is what I remember being taught as a witness years ago, but we're going back many years. Maybe something's changed, but the Bible says to judge righteously, and we know them by their fruits. So if somebody is coming to me and they're purporting LGBT stuff, and they're saying, come on, get on our bandwagon and let's go and support LGBT, I can't do that. And I can't, in any good conscience at all, support abortion. And now we have a president that's going to promote that agenda, if you will. I wonder what the Jehovah's Witnesses will do now and other Christian organizations when the politics of the United States, which is clearly run by Satan, and I think we could both agree on that, those things are going to be taught in schools now. So what are people going to do? If I had a child, and I don't, but if I did, and they were in a classroom, and the classroom says, okay, now we're going to talk about homosexual behaviors, and daddies can be your parent. You can have a daddy and a mommy and a mom. What are they going to do? What's your thoughts on it?
Well,
I know it's a good question.
When Jesus was on the earth and he was preaching, one example of how this is how we feel towards people of all sorts. He approached a Samaritan woman at a well.
Yeah.
Now the Jews didn't even speak to the Samaritans, right?
Right.
And yet he did. And even when his disciples came, they're like, "What are you having to do with her?" Right. But he approached her because he wanted to offer her the chance of and he offered her. She was at the well, getting water, and he talked to her about living water, water that you'll never get thirsty again if you drink, meaning the truth, about God and about God's kingdom. So that's how we feel. We are not judging people because that is not our position. If we go from door to door and we meet, and we meet people from all backgrounds, and we're there to offer them a chance to learn the truth about how God feels about any kind of immorality, but mainly the hope of the kingdom. And that's what that is what we try to do. So it's every person has free will, to do what they. That's how God created us, is with free will. So we don't hate the person. We of course hate the action. We don't agree with those actions, immorality of any kind.
Right.
But that if that is what they choose, then we're not going to. We're not going to get involved with that, but we will offer them knowledge from the Bible, as to how God feels about that, so that once they gain that knowledge, there have been several, gay, lesbian, homosexual people that have, after learning the truth, they have made changes.
There's also been I know that there's also been many who were LGBT and left churches, all different types of churches. I've spoken to a couple of them, and my message to them, and this is based on John 7:24, which specifically says, don't judge according to the appearance, but judge righteous judgment. And the righteous judgment is, we're looking at specifically what the Bible has to say about X, Y, and Z. And I pull no punches. I say, we listen, we both know, and this was, by the way, this was somebody that left Jehovah's Witnesses. We both know homosexuality is an abomination. It's wrong. You can't get around it. You sin, though, and I sin. My sins are different. There's going to be schools of thought that says sin isn't measured in small, medium, and large. But when you're under the topic of abominations, I cannot, how do I say it? I can't be gentle about it. I have to make it very, very well known to the person that's listening. You may have, and this, by the way, this girl said to me as an XJW, she was an XJW, she said, I don't know how to even think about it, because it's like I'm angry at God that he made me this way, and yet at the same time I don't want to not believe. And she said, I remember going up onto a high hill when I was young and just crying and asking God, why did you make me this way? And she goes, I wanted to be close to him, but now I don't even, it's like I don't even get involved. So she had a girlfriend, and her girlfriend said to me, well, so you're a Christian, right? So you're saying that you would not attend a gay wedding if I married your cousin? And I said, absolutely not. Absolutely not. You are, what you are doing is you are asking someone who has a clear basis of principle biblically. And you're saying, but won't you make an exception and come on over and celebrate our sin? That's what you're asking. And to me, I can't pussyfoot around that. I have to be as bold and direct as I can. And the truth is, we both, I guess you could say you and I, we both have the same aspect and the same viewpoint from the angle of sin. But I guess my approach as an evangelical is more pointed at warning, and more less. I don't want to upset anybody, and I don't mean that to be offensive, but less I don't want to upset anybody, and a little bit more, you better know darn well what you're doing. Because if you're going to continue this lifestyle, Judgment Day will come. And if you're going to be mad at me for saying this, that's fine. You can be mad at me for saying this, but I have an obligation before my Creator to get this message out. And that, I guess you could say, that's one of the things that made me wonder about Jehovah's Witnesses is we both know that if you were a Jehovah's Witness and you were found out to be gay or lesbian after you were baptized, which that didn't happen to me, but if you were found out to be that, you will get ejected, disfellowshipped. And there's no ifs, ands, or buts about it. You're going to get counseled and you're going to get disfellowshipped, and then you're not going to be able to see your family unless or until you decide to return to the organization. And then that person then doesn't have the opportunity to fellowship with people who can lead them to a path of righteousness. You know, if you're gonna throw them out, that's, I guess you could say, biblically the right thing to do for church discipline. Church discipline is a strict thing. But in the means of, now the person is on their own, they're angry, they have whatever their feelings are, they're gay, they're out, they've got this fellowship for it, and now they don't have anybody left to sort of take them by the hand and guide them. They can reach out to somebody if they want to, but it leaves them open now to just sin with a high hand if they choose to, and say, well, I'm out, and they reject me, and my family rejects me, so what is there left? I'm just going to go on the path and do what I want. So, you know, to me, it's just, I take an issue with, you know, I guess, just not being able to, because how am I going to reach those people? I need to be able to have an open door in my position. I need to be able to have that open door and be able to speak to as many people as possible. Like I said earlier, in the political stance, I'll come right out and say, look, if you do not identify as a conservative, then you're not identifying as anything, and that means you're not actually against liberalism, from what some may believe. If you're not against liberalism, then you support gay marriage, you support abortion, and Christianity, that's not what it's based on. So yeah, I agree with what you say in terms of not judging. We don't judge where the person will go when they meet the Creator in the end. We don't judge their salvation. We don't judge whether or not they're going to where they're going to go. But we do judge the actions, as you said, and the actions must be judged with righteousness. That's my opinion based on John 7. So I don't know how you feel about that, but
well, you know, it's really something that maybe you would want to take up with one of the elders, you know, if you have more questions like this. I don't feel comfortable, you know, because I just think that it's something if you have questions about how we view things, it probably would be better if you contacted one of the elders, you know, to ask them about it.
Oh, I know what the position is. I don't need to ask.
Okay.
What my question was for you was, in terms of the political arena and what just happened, and now that we have.
So if you read that Watchtower that I sent you, you'll see that we look only to God, Jehovah God, as a means of correcting anything that's wrong or evil or wicked. You know, we're His instruments for helping people to come to know Him, but He is the one who will ultimately, you know, correct anything that's happening on the earth. That's why.
Do you think that the nation is under divine judgment? What's your thoughts on that personally?
Well, I Yeah, I don't think so. I mean, I think that the whole world is going to face judgment.
Sure.
The wicked, the wicked and the righteous, and that's just going to be something that is out of my realm. It's not going to be anything I'm going to do except to bring that message, to those that I talk to. But I don't think. In fact, I know that God he's not partial. He's not partial to any one nation. The whole world is lying in the power of the wicked one, Satan. So it's God's kingdom. It's his kingdom government that will correct the issues that we see.
Right.
Of any kind, whether it be political issues or moral issues or, anything like that will be he is the only one who can bring an end to the wickedness and bring a resolution to the issues that people face.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
And that's why we try to show people from the Bible how he views certain everything. There's any question you have can be answered from the Bible.
Yeah.
And that is God's word written to us to help us to know how to live our lives.
Yeah.
And so we don't keep it to ourselves. We want others to know it, and that's why because that's what we were doing. Is trying to help everyone. I didn't know that. I didn't know you were a part of that business that you had, but. I'm glad that you got it. I'm glad you got it, and I hope you read it. And
I find a lot of comfort in, in looking at specifically the book of Ephesians, for example. Ephesians can take 30 minutes to read, and I love Ephesians 1. It's just a very calming. It really makes you realize if you look at the actual things that God gave us right inside Ephesians 1 through 4. It's really interesting to look at the things that were given divinely. So we didn't ask for these things. These things were given to us. That's the type of stuff that I enjoy really looking into, the doctrine of salvation and how does one come to Christ? What happens first? And it's very interesting to see that the Lord calls people effectually, and the Lord can put someone in someone else's path. I don't know if you agree with that, but I believe that if the Lord puts someone in someone else's path, and that causes that person to reach forth to the Lord, to say, gee, look at what I've done. And they start to hear that message. I believe that is the Holy Spirit, and that the Holy Spirit has the power to effectually call someone and to reach their hearts, whereas men can't reach them. Men can only deliver the message, and I find Ephesians is probably one of my favorite books of the Bible, although there's many, but that's an interesting study if you ever took it upon yourself to say, let me just look and see what was given to us without us asking for it. It's a very, very beautiful study on God's sovereignty and what was done before. And I don't believe Jehovah's Witnesses believe in predestination. I happen to, based on the Book of Life and the readings on the Book of Life, not the Book of the Living, because that's a different book, but the Book of Life, where it says that we are children.
So I'm beginning to get uncomfortable with this. I'm glad that you got the Watchtower.
What do you mean?
So that's my purpose in sending that to you, was to help you to learn about God's kingdom. But I'm not going to discuss any other books or anything like that. And I've got to go because I'm making supper. So.
How have I made you uncomfortable? I didn't mean to make you uncomfortable. I'm talking about the Bible with you.
No, you were talking about the Book of Life, the Book of Death.
The Book of Life is in the Bible. It's Revelation 22:19. What are you talking about?
Okay, I didn't know that that's what you were referring to, but I really do have to go.
The Book of Life and the Book of the Living. Book of the Living is in the Old Testament. Book of Life is in the New Testament. If you don't know that, that's why you want to get off the phone with me, because you believe I'm satanic, and that's part of the problem. You automatically want to go. You didn't even know what the Book of Life was because the Watchtower is not teaching you that.
I'm going to say goodbye.
I think you need to read and study yourself.
Bye-bye.